Story 1. Free refills. We have a lot of problems, but the rest of the world, come on. What are you all even doing in the refills department? Story 2. Innovation and technology. Google revolutionized how search engines work and set the standard for finding information online. Netflix transformed the way we consume television, ended cable services, and led the global shift towards streaming. Apple's iPhone redefined mobile phones, made flip phones obsolete, and set the blueprint for the modern smartphone, forcing the entire industry to follow. Microsoft Windows and Apple macOS are used across the globe in homes, schools, and businesses. Politics aside, Tesla took a bold leap into electric vehicles when the market was not ready and forced the entire auto industry to follow. Instagram and Facebook are dominant social media platforms used worldwide to connect, share, and consume content. Entertainment and cultural influence. Walk into a bar or cafe almost anywhere in the world and odds are you will hear American music playing. The same goes for movies. Hollywood films dominate global box offices and set the tone for much of the world's film industry. These are just a few examples that come to mind. Story 3. Statistically, we are number 1 in several areas. Nominal gross domestic product, stock market capitalization, military budget, rail network size, trade volume, Nobel Prize winners, number of patents, medical products, patents and medical product manufacturing, aerospace products, charitable giving, cheese production, aircraft carriers, military bases, deployed, usable, and modern warheads. Russia has more, but they are mostly mothballed and outdated. Top-ranked universities, worker efficiency, production of Doctor of Philosophy degrees, largest export volume of cultural products such as film and music, National Football League Super Bowl champions, soybeans, beef, almonds, blueberries, turkey, top agricultural exports by value, not by weight, but what we produce has high value, corn, average household disposable income, number of prisoners, healthcare spending per capita, Olympic gold medals by a large margin. Story 4. National defense. No one likes to admit it, but having the United States military on your side is quite an asset in geopolitics. Story 5. Cheeseburgers. Not that this represents everywhere else, but watching Gordon Ramsay make this monstrosity of a burger that includes an egg made me shake with rage. It's meat. Just meat. You should get the right blend and grind, then cook it. End of recipe. Barbecue. It is amazing. No notes. Our university system and funding for it. Despite recent attempts to undermine it, our university system has provided huge returns on investment in many ways beyond financial returns. This was an investment made in the 1800s that paid off significantly. I just realized I thought of cheeseburgers and barbecue before education. That seems about right. Story 6. The United States remains the leader in medical product development and medical patents. It may not be perfect, but it is significant. Unfortunately, these products are not affordable everywhere except in the United States. Story 7. For 100 years, it involved putting systems together and getting different things to work together that were not supposed to or had not been considered. There were many good reasons for this ability, but now it is being lost. Story 8. Entertainment. About 90% of what people watch comes from America. Movies and television shows from other countries cannot compare. I have yet to see someone rival the Marvel franchise, although it is not as good now. Story 9. Getting rich people richer, we do that 1,000 times better than anyone. The rest of us are watching the 1% getting richer. Story 10. Exploit its own citizens under the guise of freedom, market itself as a great place to visit through propaganda, and murder citizens of other countries with precise weapons of war. Story 11. The freight rail network is being reduced for profits through consolidation and wealthy individuals making poor decisions. Story 12. Vote against their own self-interests to help billionaires destroy countless families' lives in the name of racism, homophobia, and transphobia, so their political party wins. Story 13. Has anyone produced a more orange leader than us in recent years? Obviously, we win at that specific gauge. Also, national parks. The sheer vastness of space set aside for the parks is astounding and a wonderful gift to each generation. Story 14, Airport Snacks. Say what you want about the United States of America, but no other country is giving me 5 types of Doritos, a cinnamon pretzel, and a 64-ounce soda at 6 a.m. like it is totally normal. Story 15, Justifying Mass Murder of Middle Easterners. They have mastered the art of manufacturing consent for wars. They have it down to a science. Every atrocity has a prepackaged justification. Every conquest has a moral reason designed and written by people who understand human psychology and how to manipulate it. The way they reframe oil takeover, coups, and regime change is masterful. They take down global South and Middle Eastern democracies to ensure the puppet dictators they install provide them with the country's resources for nothing or a personal bribe. It does not stop there. They are so skilled that the dictators they put in charge are always easily replaceable. Iran, for example, saw the Central Intelligence Agency stage a coup and install an Islamic extremist because it was helpful against the Soviet Union. However, they understood it was also easy to replace him because Islamic extremists are self-destructive and more volatile than regular dictators. Now they aim to replace him with the son of the dictator they staged a coup against. They are so good at it, it is sickening, impressive but still sickening. If you live in the global South, one day you will realize you are stuck in a much bigger game rigged against you from all sides. The chances that you will one day live in a prosperous land free from foreign intervention with a leader loyal to the citizens is zero. If it happens, they will be assassinated, exiled, or overthrown in a coup in favor of a United States puppet dictator that keeps the status quo going, losing before even playing the game with no way of winning. Story 16. To be honest, opportunity exists. My Uber driver from Haiti told me that any skill or talent you have, like kiteboarding, can become a career whether as a professional or an instructor. While it is impossible to pursue that in many countries. Story 17. School shootings. No other country comes close to having their children shot in schools. We have won the Baseball World Series every single time it has been played. We have the highest GDP per capita healthcare costs in the developed world with nothing to show for the extra money spent. We have most billionaires on the planet and massive government spending deficits. Story 18. Exploit, rob, and imprison its citizens while convincing them they live in the greatest country in world history. Story 19. Number 1 at helping the rest of the world after a disaster. Number 1 at getting blamed for the world's problems. Story 20. Startup companies. There is a reason so many companies have originated in the United States. Angel investors and venture capital, along with the ecosystem, support small new companies and help them grow. Story 21. Military. The United States is the only country today that, if the entire world goes to war with it, has a chance of winning. They have old technology and equipment from decades ago that no other country can still compete with. The B-2 bomber is nearly 30 years old, and the new B-21 Raider is now in use. So even if a country catches up to the B-2, they are still decades behind the newer American military technology. It is the one thing the United States can proudly say they are the best in history at, and the United States military logistics are unmatched. Story 22. Criticizing other groups of people within its borders louder than those outside of it occurs in nearly every climate you could visit. Story 23. The biggest military, the most money-grubbing, and the most people that believe in angels. That's it. And I am an American. It is very embarrassing. Story 24. Supplying weapons. The United States performs poorly in ground combat and often loses because each of their soldiers is expensive. However, if the United States supplies another country, and that country goes to war, the outcomes can be different. Examples include Russia during World War II and Israel. Nothing surpasses American supplies. The United States is also generous in winning wars. Germany received the Marshall Plan, and Afghanistan was prosperous under American influence. My teacher said that, among all colonizers, rich countries like the United States and the United Kingdom are the most sensible. Story 25. Our ability to make mistakes. This country elected a twice impeached, bankrupt businessman, convicted felon to a second term. Story 26. You can argue the ethics and quality of some of it, but if we are strictly talking about yield and efficiency, American agriculture is an absolute colossus. Story 27. Convenience. I lived in Italy for the past year and loved it, but the only gripe was that sometimes it was really difficult to just get food. There are not many fast food options, and delivery apps typically take 35 to 45 minutes. Also, I miss the ability to go to one store and get almost everything at once, like Walmart or Target, instead of having to go to the supermarket for groceries, take them home, and then leave again to go to IKEA because you need a lamp. Story 28. There are many things, but I will start with food. This is not to say that other countries have bad food, but there is so much variety in the United States, and you can find great quality. It is hard to compete with. Story 29. Creating a diverse food system. Chinese, Mexican, Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, Greek, Dominican, all in the same city. Yes, many of the main chains are Americanized versions, but a nice mom and pop shop is always great. Story 30. Mixed drinks. Other places may do wine or beer better, and they also serve good straight alcohol shots. However, internationally, mixed drinks are either extremely watered down or of low quality. They lack good balance and good ingredients. Story 31. They represent the ultimate culture of ideas and initiative. Yes, a minority of Americans are carrying all the weight. Story 32. Developing new medical treatments. One of the reasons American medicine is so expensive is that our economy is largely focused on innovation. This results in more new treatments and medicines than in any other country, and it is also a significant factor in why our medical system is challenging for people without financial resources. Story 33. Pharmaceutical advertisements. People in other countries may not be aware that possible side effects of arthritis medication could include anal bleeding because they do not have advertisements. Imagine these individuals who do not have to pay hundreds of dollars to see a doctor who spent 10 years in education, only for them to recommend a medication they saw in an advertisement. Story 34. America is better in many areas, especially technology, logistics, and innovation. However, this depends on what you measure. For example, the United States has more aircraft carriers, but Luxembourg has no use for aircraft carriers. So, is the United States better then? Also, remember that much of United States technology is based on or built upon technology that started elsewhere in the world, such as cars, steam trains, and computing. Story 35. Celebrating each other's success. We appreciate a rags to riches story, whereas Europe and many other countries are still stuck in class systems. Even if not formally, they often place people in social categories and do not encourage lateral or vertical movement within those systems. We love when someone achieves great success or reinvents themselves. Story 36. Logistics. This is the reason the United States military can keep morale so high. Overseas in Iraq and Afghanistan, we would have forward operating bases set up in no time, complete with all the amenities of home. It is absolutely incredible how quickly and efficiently the military can accomplish this. Story 37. Propaganda. Moving rapidly from a corporation-controlled government and fake democracy to full autocratic fascism. Consumerism. Story 38. Pretty good at killing children in schools. One thing I have learned in the United States is that the younger they are, the higher the death toll. Story 39. As a Canadian, our neighbors to the south have a strong military, although they may have shortcomings in adhering to the laws of war. Story 40. Ready-to-eat or easy-to-make products. In my country, we have a culture of making our own food from scratch ingredients to the point that we actively avoid eating ready-to-eat options because they are not healthy. However, sometimes we are not in the mood to cook, so a ready-to-eat option is preferred. We have some good options, but the United States is on a whole other level. Their ready-to-eat products are just incredibly good and unhealthy, but once a week is not going to harm anyone. Story 41. We have an entire mountain range that is older than dirt, paired with a unique culture complete with its own language, music, styles, food, and way of living. There is no other place in the world like Appalachia. Many similar cultures exist, but no other place in the world strikes wonder, fear, awe, and wariness like these ancient woods, a world hidden away from everything. Story 42. They believe they are number one in everything, but they are close to last in important areas such as education, health, freedom, imprisonment, the justice system, and keeping school children safe. Story 43. Even with all the issues related to immigration, you can live the smallest amount of time or do the tiniest American thing and you are now American-your country in. Elsewhere, you are still considered your country in their country. Story 44. I have a very unpopular opinion that may upset some people, but as a well-traveled American, I can assure you it is true. Americans care more about racism than anyone else. By that, I don't mean they just say they care. People around the world often point out the racist flaws in the United States and boast about it. They know those things because we talk about them. Many of us are trying to solve these problems. One of my favorite memories was being lectured by a Danish man about how racist America was, only to have him and his friends say the kinds of racist things that would start a fight in the United States just a few drinks later. Also, I do not mean to say that we have solved systemic racism or removed bigots from positions of authority. Just that the average American cares more than the average non-American about addressing racism. Story 45. The United States Postal Service is the best of any country I have ever lived in, including Germany. It is super reliable, inexpensive, and as efficient as you can expect a public service to be. The workers are provided with the tools to take care of items. If the item is clearly addressed and has adequate postage, they will do their best to deliver it. You can mail a candy bar or a rock if you can get the stamps to stick. Story 46. Provide utilities. For example, the Global Positioning System is a service of the federal government, free to all. Additionally, college education is free for anyone who can gain admission, regardless of wealth or country. Story 47. 1. Military responsiveness. We can deploy to practically any conflict worldwide with lethal firepower in 24 hours or less. The United States military is highly capable. Entertainment. Movies, television, rock, jazz, blues, hip-hop, rap, your welcome world, fast food. Everything from a plain hamburger to a bacon donut. We have you covered. Be sure to get one of our large drinks to go with that. Story 48. Born citizens tend to downplay it, but providing low-barrier opportunities for personal advancement is important. I came here from a very poor country in my teens. Keeping my head down and working hard got me a free ride through higher education and a job I love that provides a good living. On the side, I saved and invested as much as I could, which has allowed me to buy a nice home and generally have a higher standard of living than would have been conceivable in my home country. My own family has many examples of this kind of story, and I see it all the time in my interactions with naturalized citizens from my part of the world. The fact that none of this required a huge amount of luck and that I have so much control in the process is not something you can easily find in the rest of the world. Other first-world countries arguably have more safety nets, but this often comes at the cost of personal agency. Story 49. Natural diversity. I know it is kind of cheating because of our land mass and geographical location. However, we have virtually every biome on Earth. If you are a nature traveler and had to choose one country, choosing the United States would be a great option. Story 50. Besides stores and restaurants being open on Sundays, nothing. Not even McDonald's. How did Europe win that one? It is a mystery, but they did. Story 51. Exclude lazy, unmotivated, entitled, and increasingly overweight people. Also sports. We likely produce the most athletes as well. Story 52. We are not going to get anywhere if you cannot answer a simple question, my friend. And again, I am American. British music is not mine. Story 53. Innovations in healthcare costs. We have figured out how to make them just as inefficient as the free ones but charge for it. Sometimes, this even puts people into poverty because they get sick. Story 54. Propaganda. The United States is able to influence large groups of people without severely limiting their ability to access outside information like China or North Korea. It is honestly very impressive. Story 55. The passion Americans put into their hobbies and the cultural infrastructure to support those hobbies is impressive. If you want to be passionate about guitar in high school, You can join the jazz band, attend state competitions, and dive deep into your interest. I know it is not the same everywhere, but I was in a public school in Texas and received a lot of support to become the best drummer I could be. I also got to participate in computer animation competitions. These experiences defined my life, gave me a chance to excel in my career, and provided a hobby that defines me and my friendships. Story 56. Logistics. The amount of tooling, equipment, personnel, supply, and coordination required to keep a sector up and running is significant. Firearms development also happens in Europe, but the United States leads in that regard. I wish we had a bit of that liberty. I would love to design them as a hobby because I find them mechanically fascinating. However, in Europe, multiple licenses are mandatory or else jail time is enforced. I am not American, though. Apologies for that. Story 57. To be frank, I do not think we are the best people to ask. I believe the most objective opinions would come from non-American visitors. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.